necessary to foster strong mathematics performance. Obviously, the mathematics learning opportunities received in elementary school are important, but the middle school years mark a critical milestone in the educational careers of students. It is here that an important hierarchy emerges, extending beyond any ability grouping in elementary students. In middle school, the hierarchical nature of math course taking and its accompanying structure of prerequisites means that if one does not take Algebra 1, a critical gatekeeping course, early enough in secondary school, in most schools it is difficult to accelerate or catch up to more advanced mathematics courses. Unlike with other disciplines like English or social studies, there are far fewer options to gain access to advanced material in the mathematics curriculum. Tracking in mathematics, unlike in other disciplines, operates on at least two levels, both whether one enters the advanced mathematics pipeline at all and when. Students' entry into the college preparatory mathematics pipeline, the sequence of courses that includes geometry, algebra 2, trigonometry, pre-calculus, and calculus, through algebra 1, an important gatekeeper course, is based on a sometimes arbitrary system of course placement. Students whose parents are well connected, affluent, and highly educated, and who know how to work the system are more likely to be placed in high-level mathematics in middle school, regardless of their test scores. In other words, merit is not sufficient. For example, even when Black students have higher scores than those of white students, the former may be placed in lower-level math classes. Not only are Black and Latino students less likely than white and Asian students to enroll in algebra early in 8th grade or before, but they are also less likely to enroll in algebra in 9th grade. Consequently, non-Asian students of color are consistently underrepresented in the courses that make up the advanced part of the mathematics pipeline in high school. For example, 21.8% of Native Americans, 41.7% of Black, and 34.3% of Latino high school graduates take advanced academic mathematics courses like trigonometry, pre-calculus, and calculus in high school, compared with 54.3% of whites and 69.1% of Asians. NCES 2007. The figures for calculus specifically are even more disheartening. Only 5.6% of Native Americans, 4.7% of Black, and 6.8% of Latinos high school graduates were enrolled, compared to 16% of whites and 33.4% of Asian American graduates. There may be student interest in these courses, but in many urban schools, calculus is not even offered. This disparity in opportunity is made starkly clear by Workema and Case 2005. An honor student attending a public school in an affluent community is likely to graduate with 4 years of lab science, a mathematics sequence culminating in calculus, 3 or more years of a foreign language, and a handful of advanced placement courses equivalent to college credits. In contrast, a promising student at an urban school may find only 1 year of lab science offered, a mathematics sequence that tops out at advanced algebra, and no foreign language or AP courses available. Page 498. Furthermore, even when there are advanced classes in urban schools with labels of AP and honors, the type of preparation that they offer their students may be far from equal. Because Black, Latino, and Native American students drop out of mathematics earlier and in rates higher than those of their white and Asian counterparts, the secondary mathematics classroom has been called one of the most segregated places in American society. Stiff and Harvey, 1988, page 152. Even after prior mathematics achievement and socioeconomic status are taken into account, Black students are less likely than their white counterparts to persist in advanced mathematics. This segregation of students in lower level mathematics classes throughout their high school careers has a significant impact on their mathematics performance. Evidence from the NAEP shows that students who take more and more advanced mathematics courses score higher than their counterparts on the exam. Consequently, other enriching experiences, mathematics clubs, competitions, and college programs targeting strong mathematics students are often not available to students of color, since college preparatory mathematics classes are usually the pools from which these students are drawn. Thus, at every stage where opportunities for developing mathematically talented students might occur, Black, Latino, and Native American students are at a disadvantage compared with their Asian and white American counterparts. In addition, these course-taken disparities have dire consequences for students' future college-going possibilities and career success. Nasir and Colleges 2009 point out that the system of mathematics education stratifies access to and positioning in the field of mathematics. Thus, we must prepare urban students to simultaneously challenge existing hierarchies of knowledge and to be competitive in a system that relies on such hierarchies. Many have argued that how we frame achievement disparities matters a great deal. In particular, the dominant achievement gap discourse focused on underachievement and failure of some groups does not allow for the possibility of African American or Latino excellence in mathematics. This is in part why the mainstream media discussion that eventually developed around Jamie Escalante's success at Garfield High School after years of success revolved around how a teacher had rounded up so many students with Hispanic surnames to take the AP test in the first place, whether they had cheated or not. When Latino and Black students exhibit high achievement in mathematics, then they may continue to be positioned as low achieving despite their success. This has implications for how they are granted access or deemed worthy of access to mathematics resources. The fact that there are documented instances of students of color who excel being inappropriately steered into low-track classrooms as one example, but it is important to note that the ignoring of achievement by students of color is not a new story. As Wiggin, 2007, describes, when a researcher conducted a study in Washington, D.C. in 1897, and Black students outperformed their white counterparts on an examination, the researcher asserted that Black students were intellectually deficient, and critics of the test called for a revision because the outcome did not support the prevailing belief of white supremacy. Finally, When we speak of achievement disparities without discussing the historical context for education in the United States that contributed to centuries of disparate attention to education for large segments of society well into the 20th century, and ignore contemporary contexts that continue to stratify educational opportunity for students in urban schools, we neglect a critical part of the story. As Flores 2007, Martin 2009b, and Ladson Billings 2007 describe, writing about the media myth around Escalante and Garfield High School, Applebaum 1995 notes. The Escalante myth constructed particular ways of talking about ethnicity and class. People in East Los Angeles, as in many large urban centers, were overwhelmingly Mexican American. Most had little access to power, goods, or services because they were poor or lower middle class. According to the story, they needed to seize knowledge and prove that they could do whatever anyone else could do. They should have made a place for themselves within the access-rich, professional, and educated world by going to college. That is, no special arrangements were needed to adjust access to knowledge and its distribution, beyond relying on a pool of super teachers who, through their own personal mission, enabled the window of access to be widened. Stand and Deliver and other films about urban schooling, perhaps unwittingly, present narratives that disregard the powerful political, economic, and social forces at play in urban schools and frame the teacher as a savior who rescues the child from a dangerous environment. Grant, 2002, page 85. And may also support the notion of weakening positive ties between students and their home communities. Martin, 2009b, Hilliard, 2003, and others suggest that the achievement gap discussion permits people to view students within a racialized hierarchy, and Black and Latino students especially, who are usually positioned at the bottom of this hierarchy, suffer for it. By focusing on Black and Latino students as a problem, it detracts attention from the need to address societal and institutional structures that perpetuate inequities that are directly linked to the gaps we see. Education research that questions the focus on discussions of Black student failure positions the achievement gap as an opportunity gap that reflects historic and contemporary patterns of discrimination and inequity. Likens uncritical discussions of the achievement gap as nothing but a gap-gazing fetish that does little to improve education or educational outcomes for Black and Latinos. And Ladson Billings, 2006, frames the achievement gap as evidence of an education debt that we have accumulated as a nation and must repay. These alternative framings of the achievement gap, unfortunately, lack critical currency within mainstream media and many educational policy circles. And most unfortunately, there is substantial evidence that this kind of contextual framing of the achievement gap does not occur in the minds of many teachers, both those who are already in the classroom and those who are studying to become classroom teachers. I'm going to pause here and Continue reading chapter 1 in another video.